Sinead came. Moving on to private member's bill for introduction, specifically fair procedures in the administration of Justice Bill 2024, first stage. And if the Deputy Costello could move for leave to introduce the bill. Garmagad, you have 5 minutes.
Garmagad, last count, Corla. The genesis of this bill is really the decision of the Supreme Court in the Zalewski case in recent years. And I must, before I start into it, thank a young barrister by the name of Kevin Kelly, who assisted me quite ably in the drafting of this. In the Zalewski case, Mr. Zalewski went to seek redress from the Workplace Relations Commission, where quite simply he did not receive any reasonable fair treatment or clear, fair, transparent procedures. This was appealed through the courts and up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court agreed quite clearly that he did not get these fair procedures. And I think the Chief Justice said in his decision, the Chief Justice said that the standard of justice administered in quasi-judicial bodies under Article 37 cannot fall below the standard of justice administered in the courts under Article 34. And this is a hugely consequential decision and judgment because essentially there is a huge problem with the role of quasi-judicial bodies, and I could spend a long time talking about that. But essentially, we are pushing more and more of our justice administration onto these quasi-judicial bodies, where we do not get the same level of fair procedures, the same level of balance, of fairness, of justice being administered in these bodies. And the Chief Justice has said quite clearly that this is wrong, that justice administered under Article 37 cannot fall below the standard of justice administered under Article 34. But as I say, the reality is it does, and it does regularly. Interestingly, we have passed some legislation in the wake of the Zalewski case to ensure fair procedures. We've only done it for the Workplace Relations Commission and the Financial Services and Pensions Ombudsman. But there is a huge variety of quasi-judicial bodies who now, it would seem, are simply built on sand and are at risk of collapsing and are at risk of being thrown out by the courts for a failure to provide any meaningful fair procedures to those who come seeking justice and redress. The aim of this bill is to address that, and to address that instead of in a piecemeal fashion, to address it in a broad way. The bill starts by defining quasi-judicial bodies, by defining what are the relevant bodies. To supplement that, it provides a power of the Minister to designate a relevant body as a quasi-judicial body, as a body under Article 37. And then it says clearly the standard of justice for administrative decision makers cannot fall below what is that which is available in a court. And this includes knowing the full case against you, an ability to cross-examine, ability to appeal, ability to compel witnesses. These are the sorts of things that quite often don't feature in quasi-judicial bodies that are an essential part of the administration of justice. So it creates a standard that must be adhered to. And again, any quasi-judicial body that exists at the minute that does not provide for fair procedures is at risk of being struck out by the courts as unconstitutional. And the aim of this bill is to fix that. But I really don't think that the government or our drafters in some departments have really actually grasped how consequential and how serious this is, because we keep creating new quasi-judicial bodies which are effectively undermining the administration of justice in this country. And quite often when we do, we don't actually provide for these fair procedures. Again, as I say, they are simply being built on, they are a house built on sand that is liable to collapse. So the bill here then finally provides for the power for the Minister to make regulations. These would be similar to orders of court that we see in the superior courts and in the district and circuit courts. Fundamentally, this bill is about saying that quasi-judicial bodies need to work to a higher standard. And this is not about the people in there the administrative decision makers, but the structures and rules that they are operating under. They need to be stronger and better, or we are not providing justice for our citizens. And we are not in line with what the Supreme Court says, that justice administered under Article 37 cannot fall below the standard of Article 34. And quite frankly, we frequently fall below that standard, and that needs to be fixed. And this bill will do that. Thank you.
Opposed. So the motion for leave to introduce is agreed, and I'd ask the Deputy to move that the second stage be taken in private members' time.
I move.
Is that agreed? Tá sé sin éon take ar an mag, if ag bog a ryan iscuti an céad mhíle eile, agus sin an bille fán comisiún haucí na torma taili, fihe cahar an chéad cé. Moving on to the next private member.